welcome to another edition of It's All Relative. I'm Josh, and today Angela Galente and I will be discussing an unsolved mystery that has sparked a countless number of theories and predictions, but has still yet been able to be solved or be concluded with any substantial evidence. We'll talk the timeline, discuss the theories that people believe. You'll hear our own personal thoughts and what we believe happened as we try and answer the what, where, and how in what is called the greatest mystery in aviation history. So you guys already know what to do. Turn it up and let's get it rolling with an all-new episode right here on the It's All Relative podcast. Quick announcement. I wanted to mention that we use Anchor. Anchor, we've pushed that a lot on the show. It's one of the platforms that releases the show to other platforms, but Anchor was recently bought out by Spotify, and now it is called Spotify for Podcasters. So we won't be mentioning Anchor anymore. Like I said, they were bought out by Spotify. The show will still be on Spotify, but Anchor has now changed to Spotify for Podcasters. As I mentioned before, joining me today, Angela Galente.
Hi, everyone. It's good to be back again.
Yes, welcome back. Now, you've spent a lot of time on the show. You've been involved with the show. So, for the listeners who still may not be too familiar with you...
I'm a little nervous.
No, you're good. Can you share with them and myself, so they can go back and listen, what's been one of the most memorable shows that you've been on, and why?
Well, I like the kayaking show with the Angelica Groswald.
Mm-hmm.
Did I say that right?
You did. Good job.
Just because, I like kayaking, and, I just had a lot of opinions about that. So that was my favorite.
Awesome. That was a fun show, and that was a good show. That is in the top 10, I believe, most viewed episodes that It's All Relative, has done. Yeah. But all right. Before we get into today's topic that we'll be discussing, I'm going to ask you a few questions, okay? And the first answer that comes to mind, shout it out.
I love
all
these
right?
games. 72.
Wrong.
I'm just joking.
Okay. Ready?
Ready.
Okay. Are introverts too quiet or extroverts too loud? In your opinion?
Ooh, that's a tough one, because I'm like the most extroverted introvert I've ever met.
Well,
so
go with one.
I'm gonna go with introverts too quiet.
Okay. All right. If you could have one superpower, what would it be?
I'd like to know what people are thinking.
Okay. And why?
Because I'm a nosy bitch.
Right on.
I don't know. I just like to...
Okay.
I'd like to know what people really think about me sometimes.
Interesting.
Maybe not all the time, but
I
that's
got
probably
you.
like a spot answer. If I thought about it, I'd probably come up with something better.
Right on. All right, let's move on. Is water really wet?
What kind of a question is that? Yeah, it's water.
So water's really wet?
I'm going to go with yes.
Okay, I mean, hey, whatever comes to mind first.
It's a
Go
very
ahead.
strange question, but...
These are different questions.
Well, wet
Next.
is a feeling, so it's kind of like... When you're in the water, I guess it doesn't... I don't know. That's a tough one. That's a weird question, but...
Yes, these are all debatable topics. That's why I wanted to ask and see which way that you lean on your
I would
answers.
say water itself is not wet, but anything that water touches becomes wet, if that makes any sense.
Okay.
Scientific.
All right, let's move on. Does the person in the middle seat in an airplane get both armrests?
No.
Okay.
They only get the one to the left. Or the right, depending on what side of the aisle they're on. So it goes window,
Yeah.
seat, that window seat's armrest, middle seat armrest, end seat armrest on the aisle. Did that make sense?
No, or I wasn't really paying attention. I'm sorry when you were doing that because I was trying to envision how many armrests. But I mean, there would be 6, right?
No, there's 3 armrests on an airplane, or at least any airplane I've ever been on.
Well, I mean, I haven't been on an airplane in over 20 years. So
yeah, I always fly cheap airlines. So
okay, so you say 3.
Yeah.
So each seat only has 1.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a tough one then. I don't know. You say yes, then the middle person gets. Oh no, you said no. To get
so
both
no, everybody
armrests.
gets 1 armrest.
Okay. All right. Last question. Does pineapple belong on pizza?
Hell fucking no.
Right on. Good question. I mean, good answer. I agree with that too. But all right, those were just a few questions just to kind of loosen everything up. They were all debatable questions.
Wasn't too terrible.
Nah, they were easy, right? But all right, let's talk about the greatest mystery in aviation history. All right, let's first focus on the timeline. Angela, can you share what you know about the timeline? Are you familiar with? I mean, talk to us. Talk to me.
Okay, so March 8th, 2014, MH370 takes off from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing. I believe they took off at 12:41 in the morning. And then at about 1:20, they lost contact with them. So,
Yeah.
how far you want to go into the timeline?
I mean, you can as far as you would like to go. I mean, yeah. I mean, we can touch a little or expand a little on that. Yeah. I mean, you were absolutely correct. Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 or MH370 was an international passenger flight operated by Malaysia Airlines that disappeared from radar on March 8th, 2014. It was flying from Kuala Lumpur International Airport in Malaysia to its planned destination, which was Beijing Capital International Airport in China. Real quick, I want to ask: are you familiar with like the map and the setup of? I mean, obviously, you probably saw it when you were.
Yeah, I have a map in our house, like a world map. So after, like, I watched the documentary on Netflix.
Right.
And so that I can get a better understanding. Because when they show you that, on the documentary, it's smaller areas. So I wanted to kind of get the bigger picture. So I kind of have an idea of what
the route was and where everything is. Yeah. Because I think a lot of people may not understand or even not pay too much attention to this is because it did happen across the entire world, on the other side of the world. You know what I'm saying? So, people may not be too familiar of the geographic locations of where this took place. But
yeah, so I want, I have an idea because I looked at that big map.
Right on.
It's a much broader space.
Okay. So just like you mentioned, last communication with air traffic control was 38 minutes after takeoff, which was around 1:19, 1:20 a.m.
1:20, I think, yeah.
Yeah, when the Boeing 777 was over the South China Sea. Now, the aircraft was lost by air traffic control radar, but was tracked by military radar for another hour. Possibly. Diverging westward from its planned flight path, crossing the Malay Peninsula and Andaman Sea. I apologize if I mispronounced any of those. But now, you did mention, Angela, that you had watched the documentary on Netflix.
Yes.
So you saw the flight path or plan.
The flight,
Okay.
The planned flight path, yeah.
So talk to me. Let's try to explain this to the listeners a little if they haven't seen it. so they can kind of understand.
Okay, so it's the middle of the night, red-eye flight. They're flying from the Malaysia Peninsula to Beijing, China. So different countries. And then, so when the plane gets to about where they would change over to the next country's air traffic control, is that right?
Yep.
That's where they lose contact.
Correct.
So from that point on, we don't know what's going on.
Right.
If we ever found out.
Right. So let's use for people who may not know exactly where Malaysia is located on the map and where China is located in the map. Let's kind of use the U.S. kind of as an example. All right. So picture a map of the United States.
Go ahead. Picturing it in my head.
Did you raise your hand, or were you just saying 5? Or
this is United States to me.
Okay, I got you. So Texas, or picture Texas. Okay, so that would be Malaysia. Now their route, they would fly north, right, or up So they would be, let's say, they would head kind of towards the Carolinas.
Northeast. They would be going northeast.
To maybe to hit the Carolinas. But then, for some reason, instead of continuing on that way, they turn and start heading towards the middle of the U.S. and then back up. Then heading towards, I guess we would say, like the West Coast, maybe Seattle. So, which was not the flight plan, right? So but that was kind of how. I mean, that I was trying to explain it so listeners who may not have seen it.
Yeah, it was almost as if it was in like a triangular. So it went, up and to the right, then across, and then down towards the left. Like it was almost like from one sea across the peninsula to another sea. Right.
And just like you mentioned, it happened as when communication was lost or being transferred from one airwave to the next. Yeah. But so 239 people, passengers and crew, are all presumed dead. The search for the missing plane became the most expensive search in the history of aviation. I believe they began the search in the Gulf of Thailand and the South China Sea, where the aircraft signal was last detected. But with no results, the search then extended to the Strait of Malacca and the Andaman Sea. And still with nothing, with no results.
Yeah. Well, suspected. We should always say that, I guess.
Right. So 16 months since the last contact, which was July 29th, 2015, a wing of a Boeing 777 was found in the Indian Ocean. Now, it was not proven, and they couldn't prove it, that this was a wing from MH370, the missing plane. But what do you think? I mean, people believed that this was the plane, or this was the wing from the missing plane that was found in the Indian Ocean, which once again is in the complete wrong direction of the original flight path. So, what do you think?
I mean, I think that, it probably was from that plane.
In the Indian Ocean, the wing?
Yes.
Okay.
But there was somebody that had located via satellite some debris in the South China Sea. So it's confusing that, that was never pulled up. Mm-hmm. So you don't know what it was. Could have been something
No,
completely different.
you're right. Do you want to expand a little more, or can you expand a little more on?
I mean, I don't know if I really can, but try.
I mean, no, I mean, like you mentioned, you're correct that.
Yeah, I forget her name. She has, was it like Tom Nod or Tom Nodder group?
Mhm.
Was asking people to look at satellites. So she was reviewing satellite of the South China Sea, and she came across what she adamantly believes was debris from MH370. She sent these pictures and her findings or whatever to people that she needed to send it to, and to no avail. And then shortly after that, they stopped searching the South China Sea and started searching the Indian, I believe.
Mhm.
So I don't know. You never know what it was. So
Yeah, which is awkward too because there were I know they mentioned some eyewitness accounts of people in different oceans at the time saying that they had witnessed and seen
black smoke.
or or something on fire falling from the sky and whatnot, which
I don't remember where they were. Do you remember where those sightings were?
I believe one of them was in the South China Sea.
I think so too. Not 100% though.
But which then once again that starts to make you think. But we'll talk more about that when we get into the different theories and what we believe. But let's move on a little because later on, the east coast of Africa, there were other parts of debris that was found. That also raised much suspicion. But once again, they couldn't prove that it was from MH370. So once again, you said that you thought the wing that they found in the Indian Ocean was the correct one. So all these plane parts that they're finding.
I didn't tell you why though.
You didn't tell me why. Okay, yeah. Well, I mean,
conspiracy.
Okay, save that. Save that. So, but yeah, more debris from a Boeing 777 was found in the east coast of Africa. Now, the Malaysian government received significant criticism, for failing to disclose information properly during the early weeks of the search, which rightfully so. Obviously, in my opinion, correct? I mean, do you agree?
Definitely.
They handled that situation very poorly. So the government, the world, everybody at this point are claiming that 239 people are dead with no evidence, just off pretty much theories or presumptions, or they, I think the documentary did mention math. Somehow math was included.
Yeah, like mathematical conclusion or some shit.
Yeah, due to the distance of how far the aircraft could go before it lost or before the fuel ran out and whatnot. All things that we'll talk about once we get a little more into the theories of what could have happened or what did happen. But I mean, this is still an unsolved mystery. Planes and people do not just disappear, right?
No.
Right? So
well, they do, but not accidentally.
I mean, okay. Let's move on a little. So January 17th, 2017, 2 years and 10 months since the last contact with MH370, the search ends. So that's it, pretty much. That was the timeline. That's what happened. So there are thousands of theories, ideas, etc. to what happened. And the most mind-boggling thing is that, one of the theories that has been presented is true or is correct.
Yeah. So I don't know if we pointed out the debris that was found.
Mm-hmm.
That was July 29th of 2015.
Mm-hmm.
So that was like over a year. Just pointing that out.
No, nice. Where? What location do you remember?
The one that came up on the African coast down by Madagascar.
Okay. Yeah. Which, like I said, very interesting that you know, all these different places, you know, there's debris of these of the planes popping up and whatnot. Definitely makes you think. But we're gonna take a quick break. Anything else you want to touch on about the timeline?
I don't think so.
We all good? So I hope that we were able to present a timeline that the listeners could follow, kind of the events that took place, of what we know happened. Okay, and when we come back from break, we'll get into some theories that have been suggested and our own personal theories or belief to what happened to Flight MH370 and all the people on board. So make sure you come back with us right here on the It's All Relative podcast.
I'm in the game now, shit's the same now. Explode next mode, I'm the same how. Don't say you know me, just say you did. When you see me sliding off to another crib, I'm in the game now, I'm the same how. The rap game will never be the same now. Don't say you know me, just say you did. When you hear YO, say that's that shit.
Welcome back to It's All Relative. Still with me in studio, Angela Galente.
Hey guys.
So, you ready to go down some of these rabbit holes, these theories, these predictions of what people have stated and believed to possibly happen?
Mm-hmm. Sal us in there and jump down that rabbit hole.
All right, let's first go through some of the theories that others believe and have tried to prove, or ones that you've heard of. Are there any that you can recall, or do you know?
From the documentary or from before that?
Sure, whatever. I mean, from the doc or theories that, you know, in general that you may have heard about.
There's so many theories. There's, abduction, like alien abduction. I did hear that. Hijacking, blowing it up. So many.
So those were a good list of three that are indeed fact theories. Let me go through a few, and then let's ask. Let me ask you. After we go through each one, kind of what you think about each one of these as well. All right. So the first one. Could this have been a mass murder / suicide? This is one theory that was presented. The mass murder / suicide being done by the pilot or Captain Zahari of Flight MH370. So he could be the culprit. Have you heard or did you hear this?
Yes.
As a theory? Okay.
Yeah. So they think they had a theory that it was the pilot. Because they said somebody from inside the plane had to have done something.
Now, I also know that his house was searched, and it was discovered that he owned a flight simulator.
Yes.
Which may not be abnormal, I guess, for pilots to own, right? But authorities found data points that ended in the Indian Ocean from a loss of fuel, which means that he pretty much, in his flight simulator, took the route that
Yeah.
the plane was
They say
expected
he
to go.
practiced it in that flight simulator.
Right. So give me some of your thoughts on that, or talk to me. What's going through your head right now when you hear that?
Well, I mean, okay, so they found the flight simulator, and I'm not sure of the timeline, but the fact that he, flew this identical path in the simulator wasn't found until much later. Am I correct in that? Do you know the answer to that?
I don't.
Okay.
I'm not too familiar with the timeline when they found that.
I feel like there was a gap in time, and I think that it was not true. I think that was just. I think it was fake,
Okay.
planted, whatever you want to call it.
Okay.
I think they were trying to pin him to make it look like it. Why would they not know that in the beginning? Unless I'm wrong on that timeline, but.
Well, you are correct. They did. There was a lot of heat and a lot of pressure towards this man being the obvious culprit. Excuse me. He was the first one that the finger was pointed at, and they tried to look into his personal life, his mental state. All the shit that he may have been going through in his personal life. I do know that after a while, it was finally concluded that he was not the cause of the plane, of whatever happened to the plane. There wasn't much said after that, except for the fact that he was no longer blamed or accused of being.
He wasn't a suspect.
He wasn't held responsible. Correct. So, with that theory kind of coming to an end, let's move on. There was a second theory that has been talked about, which you had mentioned. Which was a possible hijacking. Now, do you have any ideas or thoughts about how or who? Or
Well, when it first came out, I didn't really think of who it was.
Mm-hmm.
After watching the documentary on Netflix, some things make a little more sense. But also I'm even more confused, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, well, the theory, I guess, involved in the hijacking theory is that, obviously this plane was filled with obviously a lot of Malaysian people, but there were other ethnicities of people on board, and when they went through the list of people on board, there were three people of Russian descent. I believe one officially it was like one Russian and two Ukrainian, but
I thought they were all Russian.
Yeah, I can't remember. I did read or thought I saw though, but either way,
Or at least
Russian
direct
ties.
Yeah.
Right. And it's believed that somehow they were involved in a hijacking, which pretty much led to them hijacking the plane, killing everyone on board. Because shortly after the incident with MH370, another Malaysian Air flight gets shot down over Ukraine.
Yep. 317 or 07? I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember
It's like
the exact number.
317.
But, I mean, either way, that was two Malaysian air flights that crash or cause fatalities within a 4.5 month period. That's very suspicious to me personally, and I feel like that's unheard of. You know what I'm saying? For an airline or for any any big, you know what I'm saying, company or whatnot to go through two incidences that cause death and whatnot, for that to happen and in such a short amount of time, there's definitely a reason for it. I mean, that's my personal belief when it comes to that theory. But I mean, what do you think?
Well, out of all the theories that they presented in the documentary, this is the one that I actually am more inclined to believe. See, I always thought it was a hijacking. That was always I always thought it's definitely hijacking. I just didn't really know who.
Mm-hmm.
So this came out in 2014. So I was a new mom, 2 kids, wasn't really paying attention.
Right.
So I didn't really think too much about it then. But this is really, really, I thought, was a really well put together documentary. Very interesting. Sucked my kids in. It was great. But no, I think that it was hijacked. The Russian theory, it sounds very plausible. That control panel, there was a control panel or a
Nope, you're
thing
correct.
in the floor in a very accessible place. Of the 3 Russians, some of their seats were in places where it's easy to access it. I don't know. That's my theory. It might be it. And then they diverted the plane. I don't know. We'll see.
Why do you think? I mean, if that's what you think, why do you think? What was the purpose for Russia to?
That I don't know. I do know that they landed in Crimea or Crimea.
The theory, I believe,
Some Russian
Kazakhstan.
choose, right about 8 days before this plane disappeared. So maybe it was another one of their distractions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you did a good job kind of touching about how the plane would have been hijacked by these so-called Russians. How you explained, the seating arrangement and where the control panel was. The control panel was located between, I guess, where the passengers sit, and then there's like a go-between or a space, and then that's where the pilots sit at. And in between that, there was just a carpet that was laid over the hatch door, which anyone could just lift up.
Yeah, it was accessible to anybody on the plane.
Correct. And so I do know in the doc it was presented also as maybe 2 of the Russians, or one went to the bathroom, you know what I'm saying, and then the other one went and started knocking on the door or whatnot,
making a disturbance.
And then the person who was seated closest to that control panel was able to go and sneak right down in there. And
we have to remember it was the middle of the night, so most people were sleeping.
Correct.
Not paying attention.
Yeah, that's important. The time of it, yeah. Which would lead, enough time for then someone to...
it takes, 2 seconds to slip under that. And I know whoever did it had knowledge of this specific plane, I think.
Correct.
That's my opinion.
Because they had to connect into all the plane's control panel and
how it worked.
Make it look like it disappeared.
Yeah.
Off radar. It's a strong theory, the hijacking theory. Let's move on though to another theory that was presented, and that was a suspicious cargo that did not go through X-rays and was delivered and loaded onto the plane. The theory is the plane takes off as planned around 1:19 a.m., 1:20 a.m. Malaysian Airwaves transfer to the Vietnam Airwaves, and during that silence time to transfer, it's suggested that the U.S. government now is involved, and it's suggested that during this transfer of time, that maybe two U.S. government planes flew over one over MH370 and one under MH370, and somehow each of these U.S. planes, these government planes, had some form of technology or whatever to block the radar, to essentially make it look like it disappeared. And then, the theory is that the U.S. then, they didn't want the cargo, whatever the cargo was, they didn't want it to make it to China, so they shot down the plane.
So I have questions. So
Yes.
this cargo was put on a plane, didn't go through X-rays.
Correct.
Where did it come from?
That they don't know.
Because for some reason, and I don't think I heard this, but for some reason I thought it came from America. I don't know why I thought that. So when I was watching the documentary,
Mm-hmm.
and then I heard about the two planes,
Mm-hmm.
and I was
Yep.
thinking, well, why would they do that to their own cargo? Like, I thought it was their cargo when I saw that.
Yeah, no, I don't think it was I don't think it was from America or an American, but I could be wrong.
Because if
But
it
I don't-
was, then it makes more sense for the Russians to hijack it than it would for the Americans.
Right, but I thought that it was just a unexplained cargo that was delivered, or that went
Under
through X-ray.
supervision or something. It was like
Right.
suspicious. It was
Right.
suspicious.
It skipped going through the
governmental
right. It
suspicious.
skipped through the X-ray thing and just was loaded straight in onto the plane. So
and I think it was like electronic equipment or something.
that's what it was labeled as. Yes,
Yeah.
correct. But it was never checked or nothing, and just put right on the plane.
So we don't know what that was. We don't know where it came from.
Exactly.
So if we knew those answers, we would know more of who would want to get rid of that plane.
Right. Which, to me, that theory, I lean a little more towards so far. But
The American one or the other one?
well, not so much. I guess
Or
the
just the
American,
hijacking in
just
general?
my thing. I guess we'll talk. Well, I mean, we'll touch. We'll get a little deeper into it in a little, but I mean, just the whole suspicious cargo thing. It's very makes you scratch your head. But let's move on to another theory, which is pretty much straight to the point by some people, because once again, when we cover conspiracy theories or events, it's always the audience is always cut in half. They're always the ones that disregard it all and always think that everything's bullshit and it happened for a reason and it happened the way that we're told, right? And then there's the other half that are always the ones that are a little more open and ask the questions and ask why or how.
I always need to know why.
Right. But I mean, one of these theories is that the plane had some form of technical problems and it simply crashed into the ocean, killing everyone on board, and because no evidence of the plane was ever found, is just simply due to how deep and vast our oceans are.
And they are very deep and very vast.
They are. So keep going with that. Continue. I mean, give me your thoughts about that theory.
Which one? The two American planes?
Nah. The last one. The one about this. Simply the plane was on its route.
That it just
and it had an issue with the plane. Something happened, technical issue, whatever, and it crashed into the ocean. And because, once again, there's never been any proven evidence of where the plane is and what. And maybe the reason why we've never found anything, or there's never been any real evidence of the whereabouts of it, is because that the ocean, whichever ocean it ended up in,
which are all connected, we might remind ourselves.
right, but are very deep, very big. I mean, currents are very strong. Shit gets covered with sand. They're huge.
Fish make habitats of it.
Right.
Never coming up again.
That's
they
right.
bury it with like barnacles and shit.
Right. And I mean, there's huge, what's it called? Like canyons,
Yeah.
Things in the ocean, super deep, you know? And those are the people that kind of maybe more, you know what I'm saying? Like I mentioned, straight to the point. There is no conspiracy. There is no nothing. That's simply what happened. The plane crashed, and that's the other possible theory. So,
I mean, it's possible.
What do you think about
It's
this?
definitely possible, but so I would think that if it crashed amidst its trip, people would have seen it. Now, there was a report of fishermen, I think, or somebody seeing the black smoke
Right.
in the sky, but where was that? It was further up, right?
I don't know. I believe that was in the South China Sea, but I can't remember 100%.
So it was like, it wasn't on their path, I don't think. I think it was further up. But even so, like, you would think that there would be more. There would be debris in that general area, especially. So, you know, they lose contact at 1:20 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
The flight's supposed to arrive, I think, at like 6:30, sometime in the early morning.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't show. There's no contact. You know, like, somebody would be seeing something. Like, the current's not going to bring the debris for that far away. You know, you're going to see something
Mm-hmm.
in the days that followed. They looked in that area. So,
Mhm.
I don't know.
And that is if it did crash
If it
into
did.
a body of water.
Right.
Like,
But in that area, I mean, it's not going to, unless it crashed off course.
mm-hmm.
I think if it crashed on course, people are going to see it.
Mm-hmm. Correct. Which, I mean, the whole thing too, that just makes me think about it more and more. It's just the reasoning for the change of direction of the flight. You know, that to me makes absolutely no sense. But like I said, let me ask you then real quick, so we can try to get a little so we can try to get a better idea of this. A simple question, but do you believe in magic?
Do you believe in magic? Yes, I think I do. I don't know. It depends. What kind of magic you talking? Supernatural, like abracadabra.
I mean, can a plane disappear?
I mean, that would. You're asking if it like went to a different plane?
I don't know. Or okay,
I mean, you're bringing up a whole new conspiracy theory that I'm starting to wrap my head around. So
can 239 people disappear?
logically, no.
Okay.
If there is such thing as supernatural, which do we even know? Do you believe in supernatural?
I mean,
to an extent, I do. But, like,
right. Well, I mean, do you
do
think?
we believe that there are other planes, parallel planes? And if there are, then definitely yes, that can happen because it can hit a portal, bam, it's in a different plane.
Right. Well, you did mention also about like aliens or an alien abduction, or you believe in, and I mean, it could be other dimensions. The plane.
In this particular case, no, I don't think so.
Okay, I'm just saying those are some theories though that have been presented as well, because once again, it's so mind-boggling that I don't understand how a plane. And first off, too, for those that don't realize how big these planes are, you can look up a Boeing 777, and these are some big ass planes. You know what I'm saying? And so, I would love for someone to try to explain, you know, how does a plane of that size simply disappear?
Yeah, and I mean, it has to be something sinister if you're thinking logically, but now you have me thinking on another level.
So, let's keep going with that, because, I mean, it's that time. Tell me, what do you think happened? And be honest. What do you...
All right, so my personal opinion in this instance is I think that the plane was hijacked.
Mm-hmm.
When it hit that space of... It's almost like
no
a
communication.
gray area, you know, and you watch the documentary.
Mm-hmm.
So they always go back and they, you know, they repeat the same thing, and his last words, like the pilot's last words are like, you know, like "Good night, Malaysia 370," and
right.
it's just like it gives you goosebumps, like
Mm-hmm.
those, like good night. It wasn't supposed to be good night forever. Like what the fuck? What happened? I'm getting off script.
No, you're good.
But like it's weird. It just disappears. So my theory is it gets hijacked. Very sophisticated, smart people. That's why I think Russians, not that they're, you know, but they're pretty sophisticated people, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And sneaky. So I think maybe it could have been them, but whoever it was, not sure. Somebody hijacked the plane, took it off course, did whatever they needed to do, and then I believe it was almost like chopped. And then a year later, you know, or just sporadically like spread out in like a random place like the Indian Ocean, because that's when the debris started to wash up. Was washing up, you know, there.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I think it was they hijacked the plane. They got what they wanted. They got rid of the plane. Nobody will ever know.
Yeah, which is unfortunate because these 239 people lost their lives for nothing.
Yep.
You know?
I think it was somebody thinking that whatever was on that suspicious cargo was something of importance.
Mm-hmm.
And whether it was the Russians, the Americans, we don't know. I don't know. I just think that it was definitely a hijacking, in my opinion.
Right. Well, I mean, to kind of swoop in on your coattails of what you just mentioned, excuse me, is that in my belief to what happened, you know, I think that I don't know exactly what government or what governments, but government authority was involved. I mean, and once again, this is just my personal opinion, but whether it be the Malaysian government, the Russian government, the Chinese government, or the U.S. government, or, like I said, multiple working together.
Working together, yeah.
Exactly. But I think it all ties in to going back to that suspicious cargo. For it not to go through the x-ray thing, for it not to be checked, for so many things that could be in that thing, you know, why? You know what I'm saying? I don't know. That's kind of the route or direction that I lean towards, is that cargo, whatever was in it, was not meant to reach its destination. What was in it, well, like you said, we'll never know. You know what I'm saying? But like we had also mentioned earlier, that out of all these wild theories, out of everybody's opinions or presumptions about what could or may have happened, you know, out of all these theories, one of these motherfuckers are correct. You know what I'm saying? And I think it's wild, the whole incident. I know that when it happened too, it did reach news and whatnot over here, but being our location, like I said, for it to happen across the world, it didn't get as much attention here.
No.
You know what I'm saying? So I do want to say that, anytime that I've talked about incidences or situations or anything on any of the shows that I've ever done, I've always tried to be 100% honest, and authentic with whatever facts that I may share about my personal life. I don't try to embellish anything because I try to be as real about whatever I'm talking about. And if I do, maybe mistakenly say something, and when that does happen, I am called out on it by listeners and fans. They let me know, but I always try to correct it. So I wanted to just quickly state, because people are gonna take this and believe what they want. But one reason, that this story stood out to me so much is because that my family knows and has contact with another family, usually once a month or so. But that family had a family member who was on that flight, which hits home or hits a little closer, affects me, just knowing these people. And it's like I said, to try to wrap your head around the fact that a plane disappeared and all these people, and that there are still no answers, is very...
It's astonishing.
Right. Very confusing, and I know, and could, I think it's safe to say, I'm not speaking for any of these people who have, who are directly affected and were involved with losing people, but I'm sure that frustration is huge for them. Exactly.
And not saying that our culture or anybody's culture is less than anybody else's, but their culture, when they can't bury their relatives, they're dead. Spiritually, it's traumatizing to them. So
right,
it's bad.
Right.
Could you imagine not knowing where your children are, where your wife is, where your mom is, your grandfather? But so I know we didn't talk about it, but the first days and another reason why I think it's a hijacking is those first couple of days, they were calling their relatives on their cell phones, and they were still ringing and going to voicemail. And one of the passengers, family members that was there waiting for news, got a call from the passenger. But the government was like, well, we don't have the technology to trace the call. They didn't do anything. They kind of push it off. I don't know. It was weird.
No, it is weird. I'm actually very glad that you brought that up, because that totally slipped my mind, and actually gave me goosebumps.
Yeah, that. Could you imagine having this it's pop, and then I guess she's like, what do I do?
She missed the call. She didn't answer it in time.
By the time they got it. But for a couple of days, those, so...
That raises a million questions right there,
If they were at the
correct.
bottom of the ocean, they probably would have just... Probably go, right to voicemail, if it was dead.
Right, which is very strange, because it wasn't just one person's phone. It was multiples. Yeah, great point. It's unfortunate that there are no definitive answers, but the truth is out there, and I do urge the listeners to send in your responses to these questions, that I got for you guys, same questions that we were trying to answer ourselves. But what do you guys think? What happened to MH370? And the second question being, where is it? You know what I'm saying? Two simple questions, but ones that cannot be answered.
Yep. 9 years.
Mm-hmm.
Almost a decade.
Right.
It's a long time to not know where your loved ones are.
So it's a sad event, but it is still an unsolved mystery. You know what I'm saying? There are no answers. We have had people reach out asking for more episodes about unsolved mysteries, conspiracy theories, serial killers and whatnot. So, this episode was kind of directed, towards those people who reached out, and we hope that the listeners enjoyed this episode, and I'm looking for feedback. If you listen to the episode, answer those questions, send them in. But we're going to be wrapping it up soon. But I mean, Angela, you got any last thoughts you'd like to share before we wrap it up?
I think we covered a lot. Yeah. Just that, they found all that debris off the coast of Africa.
Mm-hmm.
So that was weird, too.
Very weird.
So maybe the plane did crash in that sea, but it's still, how to get there. I still believe my hijacking story.
Yeah, I mean, so for me, real quick before we close it up, my response in regards to all these different parts of planes or Boeing 777s found in different oceans and whatnot, and in different locations. My personal opinion when it comes to that is, I first off don't believe that it was part of the MH370 plane, and I believe that it could very well possibly have been planted.
Yeah, because one of the, I think she was a reporter, said that they were, one of the flapper, I think it was, or something was missing, the ID plate.
Mm-hmm.
Which raised a lot of suspicions as well.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So, but I mean,
I don't know. Will we ever?
I don't know. Hopefully.
Dun, dun, dun.
Hopefully there someday will be closure to this. But like I said, it was one hell of an event that's happened in our lifetime. We basically lost a plane, or
entire huge, was like 3 school buses.
Yeah, a huge plane and 239 people, and they've just up and vanished, and we have no idea of the location of either them or the plane still to this day. So, but all right, Angela, anything or anyone you want to plug or shout out? No,
just all our fans.
Nice. What are your social accounts in case anyone wants to get at you?
Randomange78 Instagram. I almost said yahoo.com.
Aging yourself again.
Yeah. So, yeah.
All right. Yeah. And you guys can always find me at Josh_Toth3. That's my Instagram. And my Facebook is Joshua Toth. Big shout out to Stellar Sound and Media and the show's editor, Jackson Wallace. Reminder, if you've enjoyed what you've heard today, please subscribe to the show. That way you'll never miss an episode when they drop. And you can subscribe and follow It's All Relative on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or remember, Spotify for podcasters, YouTube, and Google. In the future, I have been looking into, there has been an invitation to possibly have It's All Relative start to be on Amazon Music as well. So we are looking into that, and possibly in the future that will be another platform that you guys can find the show at if you so choose. But if you are using Apple Podcasts to listen to the show, please leave a quick review and a rating. Those help the show out, and I greatly appreciate it. So please don't forget, take 10 seconds of your time, leave a quick review, leave a 5-star rating. Once again, that helps out the show, that helps me out, and I definitely appreciate the love. But all right, that's a wrap. Angela, thanks again.
Thank you for having me.
Always. All right, everyone, stay safe, stay kind, stay proud and powerful, and we'll see everyone soon. Peace.